What happens when we begin to realize that the 200-year experiment we've called the American healthcare system has failed? Tune in to Awakened Wellness with Mylaine Riobe, MD, and join the conversation about how to heal our broken system to reverse our current health crisis. The entire world is looking for answers, and the truth is hidden in plain sight. Learn how spirituality, ancient traditions, and cutting-edge science are merging to create a new paradigm of wellness every Wednesday at 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Time, with live video shows every first and third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, when you can call in and ask the questions that matter most to you.
And we're live.
Thank you, Rachel. Good afternoon and welcome to Awakened Wellness Now. I'm your host, Dr. Mylaine Riobe, and we're live here on Dream Vision 7 Radio. And you can give us a call, as always, area code 646-558-8656. And go ahead and hit *9 to raise your hand and ask a question or make a comment. And so welcome back. And today's topic is going to be holiday burnout, real or imagined. You know, the holidays are supposed to be fun and a time for family and a time for relaxing, right? And if we look around, it's kind of become a bit of the opposite of that. You know, yes, we're still, inundated with family members, et cetera, but it seems to be a little different, right? It seems every year the holidays are starting earlier and earlier and earlier. And by the holidays, I mean kind of the end of the year holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and many other celebrations that occur in many different traditions throughout the world. Here in the West, it's typically Christmas or Hanukkah, and of course, New Year's, right? And so people are experiencing a lot of burnout with the holidays. There was a survey done in 2018. So again, this is pre-pandemic, right? So I think we're going to be changing before Christ and after Christ to pre and post-pandemic to have a sense of time moving forward. But this was before the pandemic. So BP, if you will. And they surveyed 2,000 people about the holidays. And 36% of the people surveyed stated that they were burnt out before Christmas. So before the actual holiday comes, they're exhausted, they're burnt out to the point where, they question whether or not it's worth it. And so that's a big deal, right? This is something that's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be something that is a celebration. It's supposed to be something where you spend time with family and friends, and it appears to have been turned into a circus show, over the last, several, perhaps decades, right? And every year, the quote unquote Christmas season starts earlier and earlier and earlier. So this year, for the first time, go out to buy Halloween candy and there's nothing but Christmas decorations in the stores, right? And you have to kind of dig through to find the Halloween candy. And that says something, right? That begs the question, where are we going with this and what is the point of it? And so, what is holiday burnout, right? Holiday burnout is when it doesn't seem so much fun anymore. And of course, many of these holidays are more geared towards children, especially Christmas. But it's much more than that, of course. It is unfortunately the commercialization of the holidays that has made it something that burns us out. We're not supposed to be burned out by holidays. We're supposed to be enlivened, enriched, and inspired by holidays. That is their point. Whether you're celebrating Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or Christmas, it is a time of celebration. It's a time of rejoicing. It's a time of coming together as a community to be inspired by each other And instead, what we're finding more and more is that people are just burning the candles at both ends, you know, kind of feeling like a circus clown that has to entertain people and that has to buy the right presents for people, and, you know, has to show up wearing the right things and cook the right foods. And so where are we going, right? We have to kind of reinvent what we want this time of the year to be, right? And in spiritual terms, winter is a time of slowing down, right? It's a time of death, if you will, and rebirth, in preparation for rebirth, right? And so the funny thing about the end of the year is we're supposed to be slowing down at the end of the year, right? When things get cold, as we talked about with my 5 questions to beat fatigue, things that are cold slow down, right? And that could be good or bad, depending on what you're talking about. But when we're talking about the seasons, the winter season, right? We're coming up upon November, December, where the sun is lower in the sky, right? Where the days don't last as long and the nighttime prevails, right? That's a time when we're supposed to actually slow down, and we're supposed to do less, not more. And, you know, we have somehow managed to be doing the exact opposite of that at the end of the year. And so we have to ask ourselves, why are we doing this? Who am I trying to impress, right? And is it worth it? Is this really what I want to be doing with the time when I'm supposed to be a little bit more introspective about where I want to be, what I want to do in the world, right? So maybe it's a little bit of a time to rethink what the holidays are, right? I always think of the holidays as whole, you know, WHOLE, as opposed to HOLI. But, you know, it's a time to really become introspective. It's a time to really think about what was this last year about and what would I like this coming year to be. And so holiday burnout is an actual real thing, right? 1 out of 3 people at least feel it and are not inspired by the holidays. They are, in fact, overwhelmed by the holidays, right? We also know the holidays to be a time when people tend to be more depressed and anxious. And so, again, we have to ask ourselves, why is that, right? When you are trying to keep up with the pace that is artificially beyond where it should be, right? Go buy this, go do that. You know, make sure you get to the stores and buy this, go to Black Friday and, you know, go duke it out with people, beat the old lady upside the head to get that computer. You know, it becomes overwhelming after a while if we buy into that commercialism, if we buy into the messages that are out there. And so when people go against their nature, against their grain, we start to see things backfire, right? And I think that's what we're maybe not beginning to see. Maybe we're beginning to be aware of it. It's been going on for some time, but maybe we're becoming aware. The fact that we even had a survey to ask people if they feel burnt out during the holidays tells us something, right? It tells us we're searching. It tells us we're looking for answers. And that we feel that the direction we're headed in maybe isn't the best, right? And so I find myself even winding down now. I don't do as much during the holidays as I used to. We all get caught up in that commercialism, right? And then at some point, after we've banged our heads up against the wall enough, we start to say, what's the point of this, right? And then we start to rein it in a little bit and we ask ourselves, you know, what is this really a time for? And no, it's not a time to enrich the mall and to gorge yourself to the point where you're sick, right? But again, if we listen to the cues and the not so subtle hints, that's what we're asked to do year in and year out. And so the stuff rolls out earlier and earlier in the year for us to spend and spend and spend more money. And in fact, daylight savings time was actually created for that same purpose. It's known that when the sun is out longer, we spend more money, we do more things. And so the artificial creation of an extra hour of daylight actually is for commercial purposes. It's not necessarily for what we were told it's for. We spend more money when there's more sunlight. And so that's the reason for that push for daylight savings. Now we've gotten used to it, right? We all like the sun to be out longer. However, again, if we look at what nature built in, there's a reason the sun goes down when it goes down. There's a reason winter comes when winter comes. There's a reason spring comes when spring comes, right? So in the winter, we hear about animals slowing down. We hear about hibernation. The leaves on trees fall off, right? The trees go dormant. Flowers don't necessarily bloom in the wintertime for a reason, right? The plants slow down. Everything kind of slows down, and we're supposed to also slow down. And so I think people hitting the wall earlier and earlier in the year is a collective sign, a collective calling to look a little deeper into what it means. And I know, there's a lot of controversy about calling Christmas Christmas and as opposed to calling it the holidays or whatever. And I think that's really just people searching for deeper meaning, right? So all of the controversy, the potential arguments are really just people questioning, and there's a hint of truth in every side of every argument. And if we listen with an open mind, we can see that people are really just asking for, help, trying to make sense of why they're running 1,000 miles an hour when they don't feel like running 1,000 miles an hour. Why they're being asked to run out and buy a bunch of things when maybe they don't feel like it. Maybe they'd rather do other things and show their love in different ways, right? Or just spend time with people rather than having to buy things for people. Millennials are really pushing this hard. Gen Z, reining it back, right? They're wanting to not have Christmas be so commercial and turning it into more of a social gathering, a time with family and friends, which is, always what it is. It's just they're taking all the noise and the static out, which I think will be good for us in the long run. Statement, oh my God, daylight savings time is really daylight spending. Yes, that's really all it was, or all it is, because it's still going on, right? We turned back the clock on November 8th, I believe, if I'm not wrong. Or somewhere around there, I think next weekend or so. But yeah, nature does what it does for a reason, right? So what is holiday burnout? What is it, right? It's of course not having the energy that you feel like you need to do the things you think you need to go and do, right? And so right now we all kind of have a sense of thinking we need to go and buy presents for everyone and decorate the house and we all joke around, the Grinch that stole Christmas with the, all of the competition, who's got the nicest house. We have TV shows built around this stuff, who bakes the best, holiday cake, and on it goes, right? And it's supposed to be fun, as long as it's done in moderation, right? When it consumes you, and we're called consumers for a reason, right? When it consumes you, then it's time to rethink, right? It's time to think about, do I want to be a consumer? Do I want to be regarded as a consumer, or do I want to be regarded differently? And so burnout is when you don't have the energy to do what you think you need to do. So there's two sides of that, right? First question is, do I need to do the thing I think I need to do? Like, if I took some stuff off my plate, would I have enough energy to do the things I actually want to do, as opposed to me struggling trying to get the energy to do the things I think I need to do, right? So that's question number one, is, do I need to do all this stuff that I think I need to do? Is it an energy mismatch because I have put more on my plate than I actually need to do, right? Like, I love Jim Carrey's Grinch, right? Because he spoke the truth, right? He's like, hey, all your Christmas toys and gifts come to me, right? In the garbage. And so how many of our things that we give to people that they're like, oh, thanks, but they don't really need the stuff, right? And so I even thought of, maybe we make lists. That's why we have our kids make lists, so we know that we get them what they actually want, right? And sometimes people don't want anything, right? They just want you around. They just want your presence, and really nothing more, right? Sometimes they just want to bake a cake with you, right? Or sing some songs with you, or play the piano, or whatever, right? Even just get a text message that you're thinking about them. And it's not so much about having to buy stuff. So question number one is, am I putting more stuff on my plate than I need to? Are the people that I'm doing this for, do they really want this stuff? If I had an honest conversation with them, are we just going around, the rat's wheel because we think we have to? Or is this something we really want to do, right? And maybe it is something you really want to do. Maybe that's your thing, right? Maybe that's when you get together with all of your family members, and that's when everybody comes together in a community and cooks together and does all the things that you love to do. If that's the case, then you got to get your energy up to match that, right? If it's not the case, if it's, well, we spend time, great time together, and that's better than running around decorating and buying a bunch of things and putting stuff on my credit card and being in debt, so when I have an honest conversation with people, they also want to do the same thing. They want to bring it down, right? And not do so much. And if that's what, the community or the family unit wants to do, then you bring down the expectations, right? And then you find that you have the energy to match that. And maybe everybody pitches in to do different things. And so you don't feel as much pressure on yourself. Holidays are extremely, particularly difficult for women because we are the nurturers, right? So we think that we have to do all this stuff for other people, in particular, our children, right? And even when we're not moms, it's other family members or friends or whatever. And funny thing is, when you ask them, they're like, I'm not really big into presents. I'm not really big into having to have, 1,000 lights on my house. And I'm not really big on that. I do it because I think other people think that, they need to do it too. So we all do it. It's funny. I used to take my kids to the toy store, and I'm thinking they're going to grab, be like me when I was a kid, grab 50 toys and expect your parents to weed out the ones they won't buy for you. And they did the exact opposite. They each ran around, grabbed one thing, and they're like, we're done. I was like, what do you mean you're done? And they're like, we're done. This is what we want. And they're like, you only picked one thing. And they're like, yeah, that's what we want. So the funny thing is when you ask, they'll tell you the truth, right? And so I used to buy all kinds of things, and they were like, nah, this is good. We got what we want. And so my kids taught me that lesson, and I was like, well, all right, what if we spread this around and asked other people, right? People don't need a lot of stuff. It's like drinking. People think they need to drink when they go out because other people think they need to drink when they go out, because they think other people expect them to drink. And what's funny is if I'll see this sometimes, I'll say, I don't really like to drink anymore. And then all of a sudden everybody's like, shoo, neither do we. We don't have to drink today, and everybody just calms down and gets to actually have fun, right? Instead of waking up the next morning feeling like garbage because they thought they had to fit in. And so if you can bring the expectations down because nobody really wanted to do those things anyway, then you have a good energy match, right? If it's really that you don't have the energy to do the things that you really want to do, like I want to do this because I want to do this, right? And there's an energy mismatch there, then you can ask the 5 questions, right? To beat fatigue and burnout. The first one again is, how do I rate my energy level when I wake up in the morning? And so it's the same thing for holiday burnout or any burnout, right? What is your energy level in the morning and how do we figure out how to fix it? And so you want to know, am I deficient in my energy? And is that why I can't meet the energy demands of my day or the holidays coming? Or if I move around, do I feel better, right? So question number 1 is, how do I rate my energy in the morning when I first wake up? What's the number, right? So if the number's a 5 out of 10, then the next question is, does this number go up or down as I move through the day? So as I get up and I move through my day, does that number go up or down? If you find that just thinking about having to, figure stuff out for the holidays is making you feel more and more tired, and, as you move through the day to try and get some of those things done, that your energy level is actually dropping, then that's telling you you're deficient, that your energy is going down, your energy is too low. If you feel better, if you're moving around and you feel great, right? You wake up a 5, but the 5 goes up to a 7 or maybe an 8 as you move through your day, then you are an excessive metabolic type, right? And so that tells you what to do. The third question is, does exercise make me feel better or worse, right? A lot of people put off their exercise when they're busy during the holidays, right? But if exercise makes you feel better, you should do it, come hell or high water, right? If exercise makes you feel better, if when you move around, you feel better, if that 5 that you woke up with becomes a 7, 8, or a 9, when you work out, when you exercise, when you go for a swim, when you take a walk around the neighborhood, then you are an excessive dynamic metabolic type, right? And do I feel better or worse if I take a nap or rest? So if you actually feel better when you sit still, that is telling you that you are an excess metabolic type, something stuck. If I sit still, something gets stuck and I feel tired because my energy is not moving. That's an excessive dynamic metabolic type. And if you feel better, if I can take a power nap for 15 minutes, I feel so much better. My 5 goes to a 7, 8, or a 9 if I take a nap. That's telling you you're a deficient metabolic type. And do I feel hot or cold compared to most other people? We'll tell you if you are a hot deficient or a hot excessive or a cold deficient or a cold excessive dynamic metabolic type. And if you neither feel hot nor cold, you're a temperature neutral, either deficient or excessive, right? So again, if you wake up a 5 and your 5 sinks down to a 3, 2, or a 1 as the day goes by, you feel better if you take a power nap, worse if you exercise. And let's say you feel cold all the time, your body temperature is low, you're a cold deficient metabolic type, right? And what should you do? So before the holidays begin, right? That's why we're having a podcast now, is you got to start actually eating more, right? We talk about deficient metabolic types needing to eat actually more small, frequent meals. And so when you're deficient, you have to put more energy into your system more often to rev up your engine and to raise your metabolism. So that's what that means. So if you're a cold deficient metabolic type, you need to eat small, frequent meals. And when I say small, frequent, I mean maybe a protein shake, right? I mean maybe a boiled egg and 2 slices of ham. I mean maybe a cup of bone broth with some veggies in it. I mean, if you're a vegan, maybe a vegan protein shake. Maybe a salad with some tofu in it. Now, if you're a cold deficient metabolic type, make sure that salad is actually steamed vegetables. So it's a bunch of roasted, steamed, cooked vegetables. Same thing if you're not a vegan, make sure your vegetables are always cooked warm. Throw some spices on your food, right? Pepper, garlic, onions. Make sure you put, cinnamon if it's something sweet. Make sure you put ginger on there, nutmeg, turmeric. These are all things that warm your system. So if you're a cold deficient metabolic type, a really powerful way to prevent holiday burnout is to eat small, frequent meals. And again, not more than 200 calories in a meal, right? But you're eating fairly often. When I say often, I mean you're having your 3 main meals through the day. And if you are a deficient metabolic type, whether it's hot, cold, or neutral, never skip breakfast. You cannot fast when you are a deficient metabolic type, whether you're hot, cold, or neutral, doesn't matter. The fact that you're a deficient metabolic type tells you clearly you cannot fast because you need to feed your body constantly. So if you eat roughly every 2 to 3 hours, right? So you have your breakfast, you have your lunch, you have your dinner, and then in between the meals, you have something just small. It could be, again, another protein shake. It can be, I'll eat ham. I just have 2, 3, 4 slices of ham. That's it. Sometimes that's all I have as a snack, and maybe a handful of nuts. That's really all you need to keep your body going. But if you're cold, make sure those meals are warm. Make sure they're spicy. Again, don't go crazy with the spices. It doesn't have to be setting your mouth on fire. It's warming. And then after dinner, you have maybe another little snack later. Again, it can be a protein shake. You can buy 2, 3, 4 different types of protein shakes. You have a different one. So that way it's something very easy to digest, but you're powering your body, you're raising your metabolism. It's so important for people who have a deficient metabolic type, whether it's hot, cold, or neutral, to eat small, frequent meals, right? So your body will have what it needs to do to get the stuff done over the next 2 to 3 hours, and then you're eating again. Right. And then it'll have energy for the next 2 to 3 hours and you're eating again. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it is so important because what you'll see is when you invest the time to actually eat, you will create time because you'll have more energy to do more later, right? You'll have also more focus. You'll be more efficient. You won't walk into the room 10 times wondering why you're there, right? What did I come in here for? I can't remember, right? That's because you're not feeding your brain. Like literally you can't think straight because you don't have enough energy to think straight. And so people who are deficient shouldn't fast. Like your body will really not do well in a fasted state. And so that's what you do for deficient. If you're excess, so if you answered the 5 questions, okay, I have a 5 when I wake up, for example, and then that 5 goes up to a 7 or an 8 as I move around in the day. Exercise makes me feel better. I feel lousy when I sit still. I feel like I'm going to fall asleep when I sit still. I don't feel good if I rest. I don't nap because that actually makes me feel worse, right? If that's what you're saying, you are an excess dynamic metabolic type. And then the 5th question, do I feel hot or cold compared to most others? If you feel cold all the time, your body temperature is under 98.6, that makes you a cold excess dynamic metabolic type. If you're hot all the time and your temperature is 99, point something, you're thirsty all the time, that tells you you're a hot excess dynamic metabolic type. If you're neither hot nor cold, your body temperature is normal, you're a temperature neutral excess metabolic type. And the way you prevent or beat burnout is you could do intermittent fasting, right? People who have an excess dynamic metabolic type actually do fairly well with fasting because what fasting does is it drains your energy out of your body, right? And so it takes toxins out, it takes inflammation out as well, because it's draining. You're not eating, and so your body is mobilizing toxins and moving them out. The reason you shouldn't do that if you're deficient is because if you do that in a deficient state, you're going to make yourself weaker, and you're going to actually build up even more toxins and even more inflammation. And it's going to be this no-win vicious circle if you are a deficient dynamic metabolic type. If you're an excess dynamic metabolic type, that means you have something extra you have to get rid of. And so we're coming up on our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll be talking about holiday burnout, what to do to prevent holiday burnout coming up here with the 5 simple questions to beat burnout. I'm Dr. Mylaine Riobe. We'll be right back.
What happens when we begin to realize that the 200-year experiment we've called the American healthcare system has failed? Learn how spirituality, ancient traditions, and cutting-edge science are merging to create a new paradigm of wellness on Awakened Wellness with Mylaine Riobe, MD. Tune in every Wednesday at 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Time with live video shows every first and third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, when you can call in and ask Dr. Mylaine the questions that matter most to you. Dr. Mylaine is the medical director of the Riobe Institute of Integrative Medicine in Jupiter, Florida. For more information, visit RIOBE-integrativemedicine.com. Dream Vision 7 Radio Network invites you in for this dynamic, forward-thinking show.
Join Dr. Bernie Siegel on Mind Health Matters every Thursday and Friday, 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Bernie will draw from his inspirational personal journey, offering us special nuggets of his sacred wisdom weaved through his delightful stories. Listen in as Bernie reminds us to be fully engaged in life.
Ever wonder what it's like to have your own radio show? Well, wonder no longer, because you can dip into the radio airwaves by being host for the day on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. It's a fabulous way to get your radio feet wet. It's an opportunity to market your business, modality, or book. Have a guest, mention a sponsor, and take callers. Or you may want to facilitate a lesson by going solo. It's up to you. Listeners can be online, mobile, in cars with Bluetooth, or listen through Amazon's Echo by asking, Alexa, play Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. For more details, go to dreamvision7radio.com and click on Host for the Day.
Omega Institute, offering workshops, retreats, and online learning dedicated to awakening the best in the human spirit. For over 40 years, Omega has seen more than 1 million people come through its doors to grow, learn, and find a greater sense of purpose. With over 350 workshops to choose from, Omega offers something for everyone. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 877-944-2002. Again, 877-944-2002.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back.
Thank you, Rachel. Welcome back to Awaken Wellness Now. I'm your host, Dr. Mylaine Riobe. Thanks for joining us today. Our topic today is holiday burnout. real or imagined, and what you can do about it if you think it's real. So question, my daughter-in-law is telling me I should follow the natural cycle of nature, waking at sunrise, going to bed at dark. What's your take on this cycle? She's probably right. And if she figures out how to do that, tell her to let me know, because that's tough to do in the modern world, right? So we've modernized ourselves. And of course, that has come with advantages and disadvantages, right? We talked about our modernization creating problems with our menstrual cycles, right? That we're not supposed to be menstruating as much as we do, but it's kind of a modern day phenomenon. And so is staying awake past dark and staying asleep past sunrise. And so, yes, ideally, you would want to wake with the sun and go to sleep with the sun, right? And if you can do that, that's fantastic, right? That would be ideal, because yes, then you're in that natural rhythm. Most people, if they have children, if they're business owners, it's so hard to do that because there's only so many hours in the day, right? And so you have to see where you fit in with that. But yes, as much as possible, rising with the sun and going to sleep with the sun. And I often recommend blue light blockers to people who work later in the day, like me. There's so much you have to get done in a day. And so you can put on blue light blockers, so that way it kind of mimics you not being exposed to the sun longer than you're supposed to be. When I say sun, I don't mean the sun. I mean all the lights and things, computer screens, phone screens that we're exposed to after dark. So you can put on a blue light blocker to somewhat mimic not being exposed to the sun so much. But yes, that would be ideal. And if you can work that out, that's fantastic. Statement, I've used your advice on the breath. It works. I've shared it with my church friends. Thanks. Yeah, no, you're welcome. It's not my advice. I'm just the messenger. It's the Institute of Heart Math in Redwood, California. So they are the ones who created the little breathing technique. And so I'm very happy that it's benefited you. And statement, thank you for the cinnamon suggestion. I feel better now that I added it to my diet. Yeah, you're welcome. Sure. So you must be a cold dynamic metabolic type, whether you're excess or deficient. So going back to the excess dynamic metabolic type, so they can tolerate fasting, right? And so if you wanted to do intermittent fasting through the holidays, that would be fine. If you are of an excessive dynamic metabolic type, whether you're hot, cold, or temperature neutral, wouldn't matter. Also, exercise, right? The type of exercise that you do, if you are a deficient metabolic type versus an excessive metabolic type, are very different, so that it best suits you. So a deficient dynamic metabolic type, whether hot, cold, or temperature neutral, has to be very careful with their exercise, because again, you're deficient and you're burnt out because you don't have enough energy in the body circulating to meet the demands of your body function. And so when you add exercise to that, that's yet another thing that your body has to do that it doesn't have enough energy to do. So I say you want to be restorative with your exercise. In other words, you want to do exercise that actually gives you energy rather than taking it away from you. So things like yin yoga, tai chi, qigong are restorative exercises. The reason they're restorative is because they actually help you build your energy. Weightlifting, as long as you are not lifting excessively, you got to find the sweet spot with weightlifting. You don't want to lift things that are too light, because then your muscles don't grow. You don't want to lift things that are too heavy, because then, especially if you're a deficient metabolic type, you can injure yourself. And so you want to kind of find that sweet spot. So I tell people, if you are of a deficient dynamic metabolic type and you're doing weight training, you want to lift enough weight after you've warmed up and stretched. You want to lift enough weight that by the time you're getting to number 12, 12th repetition, you're feeling a burning in your muscles. But you can still do it with good form, right? That's when you're right around the weight that you want to be. Now, if you're doing 12 and you're not feeling any burning, you're not really getting tired, it's time to move up to the next weight, slowly and gradually. What makes weightlifting restorative is because it makes you bigger. So it raises your metabolism by building muscle structure and bone structure. Your muscles are your metabolism, actually. Muscles burn the most amount of energy in your body. And so the more muscle mass you have, the higher your metabolism is, the more energy you have at your disposal. And so it's actually a restorative activity as opposed to cardio, which is a draining activity. So if you're running on the treadmill, biking, things like that, those are not restorative because you are just burning energy. You're not getting energy back, if that makes sense. And so if you are of a deficient dynamic metabolic type, whether it's hot, cold, or temperature neutral, you want to be very restorative with your exercises. If you are an excess dynamic metabolic type, whether it's hot, cold, or temperature neutral, you want to move more, right? So you want to do, that crazy cycling class at the gym, right? You want to do the high intensity interval training. Hot yoga is your thing, right? If you are excess, the reason for that is because you have extra energy stuff in your body that you need to get out of the way. So people who have an excess dynamic metabolic type are tired, not because they don't have enough energy. It's because their energy is stuck. Something is physically blocking the flow of their energy, or spiritually blocking it, but we're talking about the body physiology here. So there's something in the way that's preventing the energy from getting to where it needs to go. That can be inflammation, that can be toxins, poor circulation, clots even. And so those things need to be moved so that they can be mobilized out of the body. And exercise of a fairly high intensity is a good way to do that. Now, I just want to make sure everybody's very aware, do not go out and do high intensity exercise without first having seen your physician and being cleared for that. So you don't want to take on anything drastically different than what you have done before without medical clearance for that. So I just want to make sure everybody is clear with that. Any other questions? Nope, not yet. All right. So I think we need to go to our next commercial break because I kind of ran a little late for the first segment. So let's do that. When we come back, we're going to talk about detoxification to prevent burnout, and we're going to talk about rest to prevent holiday burnout. So you're listening to Awaken Wellness. I'm your host, Dr. Mylaine Riobe. Thank you.
What happens when we begin to realize that the 200-year experiment we've called the American healthcare system has failed? Learn how spirituality, ancient traditions, and cutting-edge science are merging to create a new paradigm of wellness on Awakened Wellness with Mylaine Riobe, MD. Tune in every Wednesday at 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Time with live video shows every first and third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, when you can call in and ask Dr. Mylaine the questions that matter most to you. Dr. Mylaine is the medical director of the Riobe Institute of Integrative Medicine in Jupiter, Florida. For more information, visit RIOBE-integrativemedicine.com. Dream Vision 7 Radio Network invites you in for this dynamic, forward-thinking show.
EDECIA is a U.S. nonprofit dedicated to the dream of ending childhood malnutrition for millions of children around the world. Through the manufacture of Plumpy Nut and other nutrient-rich, peanut-based, ready-to-use foods, EDECIA has already delivered life and hope to nearly 1 million children in over 26 developing countries. To find out how you can join Edicia's dream of ending childhood malnutrition, please visit ediciaglobal.org.
What if dreams can diagnose your life? What if we can meet the love of our life in dreams? Join host Kat O'Keefe Canavis, the #1 internationally best-selling author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Duke University medical doctor Larry Burke. Dreaming Healing is where we'll explore dreams, research, and interpret dreams from you, the caller. Dreaming Healing shows can be heard every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Are you searching for a way to help create global change? Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's vision is to have an eclectic group of radio hosts dedicated to educating, enlightening, and helping humankind with positive messages and tools that enhance lives using different modalities and programs. If you would like to join our team and help illuminate the universe, call Deborah at 508-226-1723 or Deborah at dreamvision7radio.com. This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back.
Thank you, Rachel. Welcome back to Awaken Wellness Now. I'm your host, Dr. Mylaine Riobe. And today we're talking about holiday burnout, real or imagined, and what you can do about it if you think it's real. So, seems to be quite real, right? And so again, if you don't know what dynamic metabolic type you are and you'd like to find out, we do have our Wellness Warrior Burnout Assessment that you can take on our website. It's awakenedwellnessnow.com, and awakened has an ED at the end. So awakenedwellnessnow.com. You can download the Wellness Warrior Burnout Assessment. It's got the 5 simple questions on it, and you can figure out which of these 6 dynamic metabolic types you are, so that you can start implementing what we're talking about here into your life. So you can start to prevent holiday burnout and burnout any other time of the year, right? But holiday burnout seems to be a particular challenge because we already have burnout just as a default now, right? And then we throw the holiday burnout on top of it. And so it's a very useful tool that will help you know exactly how to figure out your diet, your sleep requirements, your exercise requirements, and your detox requirements. So rest, right? So people who have a deficient dynamic metabolic type, whether it's hot, cold, or temperature neutral, need more rest, need more sleep. And generally, the recommendation is if you have a deficient dynamic metabolic type, you need at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep. In particular, if you are female, women just need more sleep, period, than men because we menstruate, right? And even if we're menopausal, because we menstruated in the past, and typically women don't ever catch up with their blood requirements. And so we remain blood deficient even through menopause. Even when we're not bleeding once a month anymore, we tend to stay blood deficient. You make your blood, according to traditional Chinese medicine theory, at night when you sleep. And that's why sleep is so important, is because blood carries energy throughout the body, obviously. And so if we're not sleeping enough, we will not have the blood to carry our energy around. And so that will obviously cause problems, right? You can become a deficient dynamic metabolic type or an excessive dynamic metabolic type because you don't have enough blood to carry the energy around. So your energy can get stuck because there's not enough blood to carry it, or it can just be deficient because there's not enough blood to carry it. And doing the burnout assessment will help you know which of those two sides you're on, and then you can figure out if you're too hot, too cold, or temperature neutral with the 5th question to really kind of seal the deal on your dynamic metabolic type. So if you are of an excessive dynamic metabolic type, you don't need to sleep as much. you need to move a little bit more, right? So you don't need to be at rest as much. Now that doesn't mean you don't need sleep, right? You still need, if you're male, you need 7 hours of sleep. If you're female, you need 8 hours of sleep. If you are deficient metabolic type, you need to add at least an hour to that, so that you have that extra hour. And when I say, I don't mean you're laying in bed for 8 or 9 hours. I mean, you're actually asleep for 8 to 9 hours. So if you're up to the bathroom 3 and 4 times, that doesn't count, right? It's the time that you're actually asleep. And I don't pitch any particular products, but I use an Oura Ring just to see like how much actual sleep I get. And that's helped me a lot. And so, getting a Fitbit, there are many tools you can use, but you need if you're deficient, you need a solid 8 to 9 hours, depending on your gender. If you are excess, you need 7 to 8 hours, depending on your gender. And rest during the day. If you are of a deficient dynamic metabolic type, I strongly recommend afternoon naps if you have the time. If you don't have the time, I recommend you lay flat and put your feet up above your heart. So maybe you put your feet up on a couple of pillows. What that does is that brings all the blood back from the extremities to the core so that you can be better oxygenated. Breathing is important for everyone, but in particular for deficient dynamic metabolic types. You have to really get more and more oxygen into your system. And that also helps the body to rest, right? When you do the breathing techniques that we talk about, you're actually resting your body because you're turning on the side of your nervous system that calms you. And so you're actually restoring yourself. So it's even more important for deficient dynamic metabolic types to really actually be fully aware of their breathing. And that's part of rest. Meditation, again, is good for everyone. If you are a deficient dynamic metabolic type, you probably could benefit from sitting still meditating for 20 to 30 minutes. If you're very fidgety and you can't sit still, heart math breathing is great because, again, it's a 3-minute breathing technique, right? Even a gnat can sit still for 3 minutes and do this breathing technique. And so excess dynamic metabolic types tend to be the ones that are fidgety and they say, Doc, I can't sit still that long. I can't meditate. I've tried. They tend to be the excessive dynamic metabolic types. So I tell them, just do the heart math, just do 3 minutes, and then once you start to really calm the body and the body gets the toxins and the inflammation and all the things that are stuck out of the way, you'll be able to sit still longer and longer. So, and then the last thing is detox, right? People who are of a deficient dynamic metabolic type, whether hot, cold, or temperature neutral, I do not recommend cleanses for those dynamic metabolic types. I do not recommend detoxification programs. I don't recommend chelation. I don't recommend colonics, etc. Not because those things are bad, in general, but simply because they will not match your dynamic metabolic type. And what will happen is they will actually lower your metabolism more, which will cause you more problems later. And so I tell people the small frequent meals, the rest, you might benefit from taking a really good organic multivitamin. If you're really deficient, those things will mobilize your own detoxification systems for you. And if you feel like you need more after that, I highly recommend that you seek, medical advice on that and see a board certified integrative medical doctor before you undergo any type of cleanse detoxification program if you are of a deficient dynamic metabolic type. People who have excessive dynamic metabolic types tend to tolerate cleanses and chelation and colonics and, detox programs much more, or much better, I should say. Again, everything in moderation, everything with care. Always make sure you're using organic products. Ask if you're going somewhere to have a program, ask them what they're using and where they get their stuff from. Where are these things sourced so that that you're getting safe products, because there's no point if you're of an excessive dynamic metabolic type and you have a load of toxins and inflammation to use a product that just loads you up with more toxins and inflammation, right? That defeats the purpose. And so those are the recommendations for holiday burnout. Again, if you want to know more, we are launching our first course. November 10th is our start date. So you can book a call to speak with me personally, a discovery call. It's 45 minutes. We'll run through your causes of fatigue and let you know how we can help you. It's a 9-week program that will last you a lifetime. That's the beauty of these 5 questions. They are grounded in traditional Chinese medicine, which is 4,000 years old. So this will serve you forever, right? The 5 questions will never change. They're based in traditional Chinese medicine. What will change is you. So you may have a specific dynamic metabolic type this year, and as you start to move through and work through the recommendations, your dynamic metabolic type may change. At some point, you will become neutral, right? And then you do the questionnaire again at any time, and then it will show you how to make adjustments so that you stay on the right path. So you change, right? That's why I call the metabolic types dynamic, is because they change with time. But the system itself does not change. How you should, picking out clean foods should always be what you do, but the types of foods that you eat and how you prepare them can change over time. And so the 5 questions will help reroute you, right? It's like a GPS. It keeps you moving along the right path. So it's something that you learn in 9 weeks, but you keep forever. This will work 20 years from now. It won't change. It's a solidly grounded system, Chinese medicine. And it's a coached do-it-yourself program so that you are empowered to know the causes of your own burnout and fatigue, so that you know how to eat, rest, move, and detox yourself safely and powerfully, so that you can live your best life, enjoy the holidays, enjoy time with family, and be your best self in the world, because we need you. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as always. Wait, Rachel, do we have time for one question? I think I saw one. One question? Are we good? Question, reading news about future health, is this just poo-poo, or is there something that I should pay attention to? Future health, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Health is health. There's nothing future or past about health. It's all about eating, resting, moving, and making sure your body cleans itself out. And so, I don't know about future health. I know that there are different telemedicine programs coming up out there, and those are all, I'm sure, wonderful. Ultimately, we do the work at home. Ultimately, we can have guideposts from our physicians. And, as a physician, I give people guideposts. That's how I help my clients. Ultimately, it's what you do at home that keeps you healthy. How you eat, how you rest, how you allow your body to cleanse itself out, and how you move. Those are the 4 pillars of wellness, whether it's past, future, or present. So wonderful question. That is, in fact, all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Dr. Mylaine Riobe, and I'll see you next time, and many blessings. Until then.
Join us next time on Awakened Wellness with Mylaine Riobe, MD, to learn how spirituality, ancient traditions, and cutting-edge science are merging to create a new paradigm of wellness. Awakened Wellness airs every Wednesday at 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Time, with live video shows every first and third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern of each month. Meanwhile, you can join our Facebook page at facebook.com/awakenedwellness and let us know what you'd like to discuss on future episodes. Dr. Mylaine is the medical director of the Riobe Institute of Integrative Medicine in Jupiter, Florida. For more information, visit riobeintegrativemedicine.com. This show is part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax,